In the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're gonna flip-flop the agenda. We'll go with filming permit application. This is for 52 Peconic Avenue. I think we've had a few on this site, but none this year.
Right.
Yeah, it's a recurring address. He always lets
Sure.
photo shoot.
Right.
And so
Folks
attends.
want to say anything, or?
Any questions?
You
if you
might
want to
have
come.
to the mic and introduce yourself.
Here?
Yes, please.
I'm Jenny Landy with Jenny Landy Productions.
Kelly Jacobson with 138 Productions.
We just wanted to thank you for considering this. We came to the meeting in person just to get clarity on the approval process. I do know that it's mattered in prior years how many shoots one home has had. And I don't think it's ever been stated specifically in a bylaw. So we have been told that have not been shoots at this house this year. And because the timing is tight, we just want to make sure we're here to answer any questions that might apply.
I mean, the good news, it's a one-day shoot, right? Starts, is it 2 days? Okay, 2-day shoot, okay. 40 to 50 people, starts at 8 o'clock,
It was been now reduced to 40 or less.
40 or less. Okay.
Yeah, so 40.
To 40,
And
okay.
also we have on the permit application weather, we're just juggling weather, so we've requested this Thursday or Friday, as well as a rain date for next week.
Okay.
And a decision will be made by
By the end of the day.
end of the day today about the dates.
Yeah. So I think you're pretty good for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Friday gets a little iffy again, right? So, yeah, so I think you'll be fine for Thursday anyhow.
Is police chief on?
But it's very dependent on being outside, which, I mean, with the background, obviously there. All the parking will be, off Peconic, right, on the shoulder or on the property itself?
Yes, what we were hoping to do is, I don't know how it works in Shelter Island. I don't want to assume you work the way other townships might. But we would be booking a property nearby, not for shooting,
Right.
for staging. I don't know if you need to know that address, but contained to private property just for, some vehicles using the house for a little bit of staging, and then we would be parking one side of the street only outside of the shoot location. And we might need, when you take Peconic, and if you were to go down to where Brander Parkway hits it toward the boat launch.
Sure.
Only because there's no real shoulder on Peconic, if we had a large truck or two to kind of put somewhere, we would want to put it there with keeping the fire lane open and the boat launch accessible, if we needed to. Does that make sense?
Yeah. The people that you used for the parking space before, the alternate site for parking, have you used them before?
We have, the one for the shoot, you mean?
Yeah, for other shoots.
Yes, we've used it for a prior shoot. For this shoot, we're working with a limited budget and not able to pay too many people for their properties and permit fees. So right now, we're not planning on using that grass area.
Okay.
If we find that we need to, we can call them, but right now, we're really thinking with the permit, with the parking one side of the street only, with the additional
Okay.
private property nearby, we should, and with the possibility of a truck or two toward the boat launch area without blocking a fire lane, we think we'll be fine.
Just a lot of vehicles.
Chief, did you get a chance to look at this?
Yeah, he sent us all the recommendations.
Oh, you did?
Oh, did he?
Yeah, Mr. Supervisor, I forwarded my recommendations. We've worked with Jenny before. She's been very, very respectful for the town in her operations. I know she's a co-producer on this. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes.
So we'll make sure we get by there in the morning. I'm familiar with the site. The site's been used before. They've also used that extension of Brander Parkway where the ramp is. It's a good spot to put any additional vehicles. And from my perspective, I don't see an issue as long as they follow the guidelines we present to them.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay, any other question?
Yeah, just for the record, section 65-10B states that permits on private property shall be limited to 2 per calendar year per location. there is a cap, but you're saying.
No filming permits.
Okay.
I think that's new, correct?
No.
Oh, that's always been there? Maybe just never enforced, I don't know.
Well, you're the
Now we
first
know.
filming application.
And when you say 2 shoots per calendar year, is there an amount of days attached to that, like this being a 2-day?
No, that's permits.
Permits, got it, okay, 2 permits.
Yeah.
Okay, and then my other question is, Ms. Tamarkin?
Mr. Tamarkin,
Oh, Carrie, Mr., okay. I wouldn't say that this letter of consent is sufficient. We would
so I've
need,
used that for years.
Yeah.
we would need
Okay.
something from Mr.
Yeah.
Tamarkin.
I've been using that for a decade, but I'll be happy to get an original signature from him.
That would be perfect.
Sure,
All right, thank you.
okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Okay, Amber informs me we have to do a special budget meeting. So I'm gonna make a motion, we close the work session and,
We have to give permission.
Don't we want to recess it because we want to take reports
you wanna do that now?
Well, no, I mean, we can
Oh,
recess the
okay, we're
meeting,
gonna recess the work session
come back.
and, yeah. Make a motion that we have a special budget.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Amber's gonna distribute the, budget books. I'm gonna read the, budget message this year. As town supervisor and chief financial officer, it is my duty to present to the town board my proposed tentative budget. This is my 8th and final budget presentation. I've always met with the department and community heads to discuss their needs, record them, and present their proposals and mine to the town board. My tact has always been to start with a low proposal, and let the town board add as necessary. This year, however, I decided to address what I believe are the needs of the town, and I'll let the town board decide what to keep, eliminate, add, or decrease in the budget. I originally wanted to propose a 4% salary increase for all employees and 2% for elected officials, but the current CPI is at 3%. That's what I went with for everyone, except for specific cases that will be noted in the budget presentation. As we have been interviewing people for various positions in town government, a number of things have come to our attention. The primary observation being that we must offer competitive salaries in order to attract the best candidates. Added to this are 2 issues that are new to us. The first being that the majority of our candidates no longer live on the island, so transportation costs need to be factored into the salary. Second factor is the employee contribution towards health insurance. Current town policy requires a 20% contribution for any new employee or anyone hired after June 12th, 2012, a 15% contribution for those hired between September 2004 and June 12th. Between March 2009 and June 2012, the contribution was 25%, but the town board lowered it to 20% in 2012. With this formula, the average employee pays approximately 6.4% of their salary towards single premium coverage, 9.33% of their salary for family coverage. My proposal is to change the contribution percentage from 20% of the premium to a 2% contribution for single coverage and 4% for family coverage. Percentage would be based on the employee's salary. This would help new employees on the lower end of the pay scale the most, but would help all employees who contribute. The additional cost to the town would be approximately $75,802. Overall, the fixed increase in employee benefits over last year is a sizable increase of approximately $411,631. With the additional proposed increase, the percentages paid towards health insurance, the total benefits increase is approximately $487,433. I am also proposing we officially create the position of Human Resource Officer. As many people are aware, the town is often challenged that we don't do things by the book. The town attorney is addressing that and advising the board where and what do we need to do to correct this. At the same time, I am proposing to drop 1 position in the town clerk's office. The office has been running with 3 people for the better part of a year, and with the addition of new software, we hope to be able to streamline the workload even more. I am also proposing we make some changes with the senior service and nutrition program to make both more efficient. Some of the changes are just moving things between departments, but a significant one is creating the position of nutrition sites coordinator. We will continue to address the needs of our senior citizens and are optimistically hoping to continue to grow our senior services program. After working with the town engineer and the Water Advisory Council to address the town's needs, I'm supporting their recommendation and proposing additional funding for data modeling and a hydrology consultant in the amount of $45,000. In summary, the major proposed increases are based on creating a new HR position as well as a nutrition site manager position, increasing the town's contribution to health coverage, addressing the Water Advisory Committee concerns, a substantial increase in fixed appropriations, and a significant decrease in the home mortgage tax anticipated income. In previous budgets, we were able to incorporate user fees and increase permit fees to offset tax increases. The town board will continue doing that, but also looking at using the $260,000 in ARPA funding, which is COVID money, where applicable, to offset appropriations, as well as looking at other potential funding sources. So with that said, I'd like to just walk us through the budget, so tomorrow we can really start working on it. And notes from when we met with everybody, and I'll just kind of explain as we go. But I'd ask you to hold your questions, so I can just, give us a. Okay, so we'll start right at the top, page 2, town board.
We also hold our slings and arrows.
Oh, yeah. I didn't bring my shield. Okay, so again, personal services are 3% across the board. In this, the new thing on the town board is the Board of Ethics, professional services is $5,000.
What do you want, page 2 already, Jerry?
Page 2,
Okay.
town board.
Gotcha.
It's a 2% overall increase there. We go to page 3. Justice Court. The salary looks like a big increase, but we hired the new clerk at $65,000. So the increase is based on that salary, and it's a 3% increase. The next is the supervisor's office. This is where I added the position of human resources. Okay. We also increased the administrative assistant. Well, that's still 3%. We increase it there. We did increase the HR there. Next is tax receiver. We asked for 4%, by putting a 3%. The assessors, again, we'll go over it. They asked for a 5% increase. They asked for an intern. They asked for part-time staff. I didn't agree with all of those, so we'll talk about that in depth, line by line. Assessment board review. Here's town clerk. Again, what I did with the town clerk, as I sort of noted, was we've been working with 3 clerks for the better part of a little over a year. I'd like to continue that. It looks like the salaries are down, but what I did was I took the waterways management money that we've been using to pay for whoever handles the mooring fees, and gave that to the town clerk and the deputy clerk to adjust their salaries, so their salaries are what they're supposed to be with the 3% increase. They also suggested that, and giving the full workload of the moorings back to the town clerk's office. We'll handle it in full with the Bay Constable. They also proposed increasing deputy clerk Mazzaferro's 14% increase to bring him up to, comparable with the rest of the department. And the new software, I have $30,000 for new software, but it's in the IT budget. Okay, next is the attorney. The attorney made a proposal, 3% increase, I put in for a 3% increase. I did increase the legal aid workload, because previously, Christina's been doing the work for the ethics board and the planning board, and she wasn't paid for it. Sure, those hours are compensated for. And anybody, departments can make their case when I put it that way. Same thing with the building, or with the engineering department. Joe put in for a 9% increase. If you look at the totals of the two, they're similar because he put in for less professional services. I put in for more, so he can make his case there. Green options, there's more in the clerk's fee. Public Works, it's overall down 3%. But yeah, now with Public Works, Highway, brush and weeds, all the police, it is a little different because the personal services aren't reflected here because we're in negotiations. So that'll be, there's money in contingent for personal services. That's how you negotiate. We go to page 7, town board buildings. Well, maybe
Nine,
7.
page 9.
Okay. Town board buildings, it's the same, no percentage increase. Then we get to IT, media. And this is where I put in the $30,000 for the town clerk software. And he has to meet with the other town clerks and then with the salesmen. And along with Kevin, they're gonna decide what's the best software to get for the town moving forward. Okay, town board other items, the insurance, Association of Towns, all that's of significant. Association of Towns. Contingent, and contingent includes negotiations plus having something in there. Police is the same thing with salaries, we're gonna have the contingent. This is the same. Yeah, attendant scale's the same. Animal control is, the chief's making a little bit of a change the way Bo is animal control and bay constable, so there's a little bit of switching around. He'll explain that when he comes in. It's done. He proposed a 15% increase for the animal control officer and money reduction in deer management, but moving it to habitat management. Jim will talk about that, I think, when we get to that. Okay. Town social worker, it's a 3% increase. Still haven't decided if we're gonna extend hours or how we can use any extra opioid money for that one. EMS is a big one. EMS, the first part of it is Jack asked for the longevity pay. This is an ongoing discussion we have that our policy is we don't pay longevity for part-time. Technically, that's a part-time position. But the big one here is our coverage, our ALS coverage. We're going from part-time to full-time, and Stony Brook, Southampton is, they've been working with us, but they're changing what they're doing. They can't afford to do as much as they're doing, so we're budgeting $431,250. Guess I should have put that in the introduction letter too. It's a sizable
So is that
increase.
for 24-hour coverage?
That's 24/7, yes. And it's also, we're also putting in for the ferriage, because they're not covering that.
Didn't we do 24/7 this year, though?
No, 12.
No,
Oh, we just did 12.
We did 12/7,
Okay.
and then we had the opportunity to get some, so because we didn't have it all from the very beginning, we had some extra money.
Okay.
So, and it's been working out very well, but it's a huge expense. Okay. Okay, highway, same thing, personal services. There is some CDL training that Brian's putting in this year, he's asking for. As new hires come in, we need to train them. Commercial driver's licenses. Oil waste management's the same, pretty much, what other items is the same. Nutrition, there's a bunch of stuff moving around between nutrition and senior services. Basically, to start with, again, when Karen Bennett retired, we hired Sarah Mundy to be the program supervisor, nutrition site manager. And then when Sarah left, we hired Kelly to be the senior supervisor. We asked her to do both roles, and it really wasn't fair to Kelly. It was too much. So with that said, I'm proposing we go back to the nutrition site manager. But rather than do it the way Kelly's proposal was, that we pay $47,000 for the site manager, and currently we have an assistant that we budgeted $23,000 to do the paperwork that goes along. It's paper intensive because of its all county funding. I thought we could incorporate some of that money into a salary to hire someone, full-time to work that job. So $56,800 is the full salary for that position. And we can eliminate the part-time clerk. And also, that's the major one. Residential repairs, pretty much the same. Silver Circle, we're gonna move the drivers, the fuel to the senior center. We're adding Cook's Cook's salary to just moving things around a little bit. Same with the senior services, we're gonna move a few things around. No major change. Well, it's a percentage change because we're moving it from one category to another, but I'll go over that as we do it. Recreation, Bethany asked for her salary to be equivalent to Kelly's because, they're both, run the department. And, so she put in for that and I put in for a 3% increase. That's an item we'll have to discuss. She also put in for a 10% increase for Emily, her assistant. I put in for 3%. So that's something we'll have to discuss. That's both for that and for the youth center. And then housing, pretty much the same there. Landfill, again, same with the salaries, the majority of it is that's a 3% increase there. Benefits is, again, a very big part of the budget. Barb will come in and explain all that to us. Revenues have been good. We have some nice increases in some of our checking, some of our interest accounts, but mortgage payments, we're anticipating those going down. We've been budgeting $500,000 a year for the last 2 years, and we've been getting it, but we're anticipating $300,000, so that'll be a $200,000 shortfall there. Town clerk revenues,
You have no outstanding debt,
we have no debt.
no debt,
No
so
debt.
remind people of that.
Town clerk fees are pretty consistent. Don't expect any big jumps or losses there. Same with Justice Court. EMT revenues really don't put anything, never know if we're gonna get donations.
Right.
Landfill revenues look like they'll be up a little bit, but when they're up, it means that appropriations are up also, usually pretty close to a wash. Medical center, that'll be pretty much covers expenses there. That's a wash. Nutrition, Amber, I don't remember. We can talk when we do it. anticipated revenues are down there. I think that's countywide. I'm not, and I have to ask Barbara exactly why, but it's significantly down. I have to find out what that's based on.
You're talking about line one, the
Yeah.
HDM and Concord, that's the contributions.
The nutrition reimbursement.
Oh, the 55,000? Yeah, that is county.
Yeah, okay, and I have to find out why it's anticipated that we're not gonna do as much, or. Okay, again, looking into that. Revenues, anywhere else, they're significant. We are adding the shopping assistance program. That was a grant we got. That's very similar to the residential repair one. Police revenue is up because our police revenue sharing is up at the county. Recreational revenue is up because our fit center fees are coming back again. They had gone way down with COVID, but they seem to be coming back.
They're almost back at pre-COVID levels.
And again, it's not, these are hard numbers. We're not really being overly optimistic. It's realistic numbers that Bethany gives us. That's it on the A fund. Go to the B fund. Committee clerk.
Oh. And Ryan, yeah,
What page is it?
33,
Well, I'm going from mine.
Oh,
33, yeah.
33.
It's just the MTA tax, and it's the first one.
Well, the county clerks are there.
Okay, so, but there's no.
There's
money.
money.
Okay, because that was, Amber felt it was better if we put them, where they are. Part of it is administrative assistant or in each department that they're clerking for. Then we can transfer the money, so we know which each department is allocated. Then we can transfer that money, payment is needed. Okay, so that's why there's no money there. MTA taxes, our town contingent, contract and license review board. Okay. If we go to building department, here the department proposed a 7% increase. Again, I went with 3%. Department proposed Tim Riley and Michael DeSanctis go to 40 hours. I proposed 35 hours. They proposed 3 people go to Association of Towns. Because again, the staff is building and there's a lot of training that they use for that. Fire marshal, fire warden. If we go to zoning, it's pretty much the same exact thing. They're proposing 7%, proposing 3%, proposing 40 hours for him and Michael. I'm proposing 35 hours. We'll have Reed come in and make his case. Zoning Board of Appeals is 3% for everyone. Planning Board is the same. Water Advisory, okay, this is a big one. Water Advisory, with Peter Grand and Joe Fenora. And what we pretty much kept the top of the list. We added 2 things. We added battle monitoring / hydrology consultant for $40,000. And we added citizen science work support for $5,000. These are citizen sciences, what we're doing with Menantic Creek and what we had done with Fresh Pond. And the data modeling and the hydrology consultant is, what's being asked for, both comprehensive plan and, with everything we're doing, wastewater and water wise. So that's a $45,000 increase in their budget. Okay, comprehensive plan, I'm proposing that we keep them on the end because we're not done. Dropping it a little bit, but not much, $2,000. Make sure we have enough to finish it. Code enforcement, again, this one's building up a little bit because we hired Mickey Chi to be our code enforcement officer, and he didn't start at the beginning of the year, so we need to have enough money in to pay him. It's also has an increase in contracts and office and miscellaneous to get that up to snuff, and code enforcement is under Stephen's guidance. Attorney's office, legal office rather than the building department. Okay, CAC is
Just as an open comment, that's a major step forward for us. I think things are, it was long overdue enforcement piece, and things are starting to fall into place. I'm not saying they're perfect because we're far from that yet, but we're working towards much better enforcement across the board. I'm very pleased about that.
Okay, again, the benefits are up. The revenue is a little bit down. Part of it, the reason it's down is because of the moratorium. So, some of the permits, that usually might be a little bit higher, kind of on hold right now. But it's pretty much stable. That's it on that. The other ones, the D and TA and TP are pretty much mostly contractual, so that was contingent. You want to go over capital? We'll do that in depth.
Just,
So I just wanted to give you just a rough go through. When we start tomorrow, we can, I think we'll start going through and decide, who we want to talk to, what departments we want to come in. We can ask questions of Amber and Shelby and myself. What either departments that we don't want to talk to, concerns, or however you want to do it. And again, usually what my rationale is, have you guys put things back in, but this year it's a little different.
Yeah. So it's a different, a different formula, but we'll get to the same kind of results, hopefully. We covered this in about a half hour or so, going through, 60, 70 pages worth. Starting tomorrow morning, we'll go page by page, line by line, ask tons of questions, and do it just together.
Yes.
Without department heads in the room.
Right.
And we'll do this for several days until we, get a real good fix on this budget. And then where there's any discrepancies, where we really need the department head in here to explain why they are asking for this increase, or we have a suggestion on how to improve that budget, that will be negotiated with the department head physically here in the room. The whole process usually takes us, during my 8 years, takes about 2 to 3 weeks to actually complete. Literally dozens and dozens of hours go into this budget. This is a great start. Every supervisor has handled it in different ways. I can remember, starting off at 4%. I can remember starting off, and I won't mention names, 18%, and trying to find over $1 million worth of cuts, back, and that was 4 or 5 years ago. And that was a yeoman's task. So this is something in between. We've listened to the town in terms of, what the needs are. And I think, things like the hydrologist and things like that, getting a better handle on water issues here on the island are important. I think the enforcement piece across the board is so important that we've, for decades, have been really not operating well in terms of enforcement. I like the fact that there's additional monies put in there for the comprehensive plan. If this thing goes into 2024, and how far that goes. So I think it's a good starting point. I think there's a lot of discussion that goes on here, and I can only guarantee you the voters that are out there and the residents that will, pay these taxes, that we will be very careful, but very prudent, but on the same token, hopefully be wise enough to know where increases need to be had. I think the one thing I have to applaud Supervisor for in the last couple of years is the revenue piece. I think one thing that Jerry's brought to the table is the need to increase revenues to offset some of the costs on the upside of the budget. And he's done a yeoman's job, and that's in every aspect. And I think, BJ's things with parking and beach parking and all Meg's work and Amber's work, they've all contributed to that, increasing revenues, and it's paid off. I'd like to say that our recycling center, is operating, much, much more efficiently and financially sound than it was, maybe prior to those increases. Because obviously that product has to be dealt with, and it's a lot of equipment and a lot of manpower and hours with that. Now, with all the new regulations, even at recycling center, of having to haul this stuff further, more regulations, more things, it's only going to get worse. It's not going to get better. And from the mitigation point of view, we have started very nicely on trying to work on the mitigation plan and taking corrective action about, particularly at the most two critical things at the ferry terminals. We have to applaud both companies for doing what they have done with the guidance that the town has provided and the grants writer to help start that process. But now road raising and places like Condon Dock and Ram Island Road and Westmoreland and all these other roads that are constantly flooding have to be dealt with. So, sea rise is here to stay, and hopefully we are going to make some major dents in getting this thing done. The other thing I have to say that we've done a much better job with across the board is developing an ADA compliance plan. It's not all in place yet, but the community center will be ADA compliant, and in a matter of probably 3 years, I would say, Amber, safely from now, that the two buildings to our north, both Justice Hall and Police Headquarters, will also be totally ADA compliant, maybe prior to that 3-year commitment. But we've put a lot of money into the design work on that. And I think it was smart that we're attempting to do both buildings at the same time. And so that when we come to execute those, we might be able to get a better bang for our buck in terms of, getting those projects done. And I think next door, again, that asbestos has been removed from the building. That building would be brought down. It'll be up to the next town board to decide how this, how the property is going to be utilized. And we have no plans here to do that. And I will say that the, Fit Center will remain in the school, till further notice. There's no great urgency to bring that out of there. We've explored some ideas, but that's about it. We will continue in Newtown and to look into those areas as well. But I think we've made some major dents at the senior center. Recreation department is really starting to flourish and take care of the needs of both the adults and children here on the island. So overall, I think we're moving in the right direction. Thanks.
I think the one thing we should note, just because I guess it was the budget work sessions will be, but just to reiterate for everyone, tomorrow, 10 a.m. will be the first one. On Thursday, starting at 10 a.m. also. Then we have a pause until Friday, the 29th at 10 a.m. And then
October 2nd.
actually, I was gonna say October 2nd, 1 p.m. and then October 4th, 11 a.m.
And
You have the third. Yeah, third on the 10 o'clock.
Oh, yes, it's in the jail.
Those are 6, counting a half a dozen dates, but again, as we go through this, if we find a need to spend extra, we say we're gonna go 2 or 3 hours, if we have to go another hour on it, we do. We're gonna try to get this thing as perfect as we can for everybody.
Okay. That said, I'm going to recess the budget hearing, budget meeting, and reconvene the work session. We'll go around the table. Next.
All right, comp plan?
Comp plan.
Saturday, September 23rd, from 11 to 1. In the Legion upstairs in the community center, we'll be having the open house. So the consultants will give a presentation in the beginning, starting at 11, and that'll be kind of an overview of the process. There's going to be 5 stations that will have usually like 2 chapters per station. And it's going to give about 45 minutes for people to go through, look at all the boards, and there's going to be ways for you to make comments on them. and to do red or green stickers for if you like something, if you don't like something, so that we can kind of get an idea of feedback. And then starting at 12:15, there's going to be a public hearing session, so everybody can have a chance to let us know what you're thinking, ask some questions, give your input, and then once that's over, then BJ and I are just going to hang around and so that the space can stay open for people to just come and look who couldn't have come earlier for the 11 to 1 portion. And that will stay open until 4 o'clock, just for people to come through and look and make comments if they couldn't make it earlier. The consultants will be gone by then. So after the hearing, the consultants will leave. They have other things they need to do that day. So that's coming up this Saturday. We look forward to lots and lots of participation. All the chapters are available on the website. Chapter 11 will be posted today, and that is a summary of all of the recommendations. And along with that summary, there's kind of a ranking on complexity and
Cost.
and which kind of also leans towards the cost of that specific project. And it also tells you who the responsible parties are and who the partners would be in trying to accomplish that recommendation, whatever it might be. So that'll be posted on the website for everybody to look at, and that is the last chapter. That's the implementation plan. So it's really a summary of all the action items and recommendations that are in the previous 10 chapters. And so that'll be posted today. It's also going to kind of be the foundation of what the boards are going to be. The boards are all going to be the action items and recommendations so that people can comment on them.
Words or stations at the workshop/hearing.
Right. And then once we're done with the open house, we're going to move those 5 boards into the boardroom so people can have a chance to come and look at them if they couldn't make it on the weekend.
It's sort of the cliff notes for the comp plan.
Right. I think that's all I have.
Jim?
Yeah, I had 2 meetings yesterday. First one was a recreation meeting. Very happy to report that the new mats, as people know, have arrived about a month ago. They're stored in the Shelter Island Community Center on the first floor. The cost of those mats was $6,500, which was paid for by the Shelter Island Police Department. But they have received substantial donations from the fire department in the name of $2,500, which brought that cost down to $4,000. And then brings it down another $1,000 because we have $500 from the American Legion Post 281 and from Our Lady of the Isle Church, $500. So the cost of the mats were at $3,000. We are teaching martial arts, both for defensive and offensive uses. It's a part of self-defense courses that can be taught. This is great for children and adult groups as well. Most of those sessions will probably go about 6 weeks in length. Jiu-jitsu is one of the things that they do offer, but they will offer other types of martial arts as well. And we could also use those mats for wrestling and other programs that we, dance and other things that the recreation department can use. So they will have a multi-purpose use, and they're easy to store. We don't need any special storage area for them. So that worked out real well.
Jim, I think it was the PBA.
Yeah, I was just about to say the same. It was the PBA, not
Oh, the
police
PBA,
department.
okay,
It was
thank
the
you,
tax
thank you
money,
very,
so-
very, very much. Thank you for that, PBA, and we want to thank them very much for that generous donation. Thank you for that correction. The senior luncheon, we were talking about offering one in October. We might be looking at that. We definitely are offering one in December for the holiday time. And and again, the PBA, or the police department, is looking to sponsor one for the spring, to do in the spring. So that's nice. Having Anthony on there is a big help, and having a member of the police department there on the recreation committee is very, very helpful. Summer programs for 2023, both Bethany and Emily stated that most all of the summer programs went extremely well and were well attended. One exception was, and it's usually rare because we've had such popularity in the past, the multi-sport program. That was down a little bit. That's offered in August. And but overall, all the programs in the summer were well attended and were self-sufficient. And The best news I had yesterday out of that was the lifeguard situation. They raved about the 8 lifeguards that were hired this year. They were the best we've had in quite a few years. They did an excellent job, and we thank the lifeguards for doing what they did. Bethany cited that the new archery program seemed to be an excellent addition. They offered during the summer program. There's excellent feedback from those people. They offered basic archery classes that were held at St. Gabe's. Fall program is a full assortment of recreational activities, both for children and adults. The kids, we're gonna have kid art, T-ball, which is a new program for kindergarten through 8th grade. The gymnasium will be used for programs during the weekend and during the weekends for both children and for adults. New programs offering with the new mats and new recreation programs as well. The adults also will have art classes, workout classes as they've had in the past. So you can sign up for those things through Bethany and her office at the rec department. Under old business, the gym memberships are almost back to the way they were pre-COVID. Tremendous increase and popularity back in our Fit Center. I toured the Fit Center yesterday after the meeting. It was spotless. I mean, it is really in very good order. There was one piece of equipment, and that happened to be a treadmill that was down. We are replacing that treadmill in a matter of a few weeks. We have money in the budget for that. We might be able to purchase 2 treadmills because there's another one that's quite old. And we have those monies set aside in the budget every year because obviously there are several dozen pieces of equipment, maybe 2 to 3 dozen pieces of equipment. You hope to get 15, 20 years use out of it before they start to need heavy maintenance. So that we feel that being able to replace a couple pieces of equipment every year is the way to go. We did bring up the little playground, which is located right opposite school between there and the ball field. Apparently, we've gotten some feedback, not good feedback from residents on the utilization of the playground, the fact that it needs repair and is not being maintained properly. The committee discussed this issue for quite a bit. It was similar to our discussion about the skate park. These facilities need to be inspected and maintained on a regular basis. And I've been saying that about skateboard park. I'm saying that also about playgrounds. Between town and the school, we have to set up a program. Somebody's got to be trained. Maybe it's a public works person that goes in there and actually makes a monthly or bi-monthly type of inspection of those facilities. But they can't wait for feedback from the people. You have to anticipate that when you have facilities like this, they need to be looked at. I suggested a meeting between Brian, the public works personnel, Bethany, and several others to make recommendations on how we can better maintain these things, and also maybe somebody from the school. So we're not going to sit by and just let this happen. It needs attention. The fourth thing we talked about was programs for senior citizens. The committee discussed the article that was in last week's Shelter Island Reporter concerning social workers' comments as it pertains to those seniors who feel isolated and suffering from possible depression. After some discussion, the committee would feel that it is important to do 2 of the following things. Number 1 is we have to do probably a better job of getting out what both the senior center and the recreation department offers for seniors. Just got to be more visible, more out there, and more encouragement to get people to utilize these existing programs. The other thing is to set up, meetings, to find out what programs we're missing. What could we offer more to get people that do feel isolated, programs during the day, particularly targeting our seniors, to help counteract some of the comments that we heard, last Tuesday here. I would like to recommend that second thing we do is to host quarterly meetings, specifically with town employees. That would be Bethany, Kelly, Ala, the social worker, me as the town liaison for the recreation, and whoever takes that job over after I do, somebody from the health and wellness group, and maybe some other people. I would think that if we met at least twice or 4 times a year, I would like to start out with 4 times a year. I think we could do a better job at coordinating these services, Jerry. It doesn't get done unless everybody's talking on a regular basis every 3 months and to sense what we're doing, what we should be doing to improve services, and to take on some of those comments from last week. That was basically it for the rec department. As far as last night, we had a CAC meeting. We reviewed 2 wetlands applications that were already looked at by the planning board. We looked at McCann 12 Westmoreland Drive. We looked at Weisstein and Hensley at 28 South Midway. There were some recommendations put in there. I'll talk to you guys, about some of the comments that the CAC comes up with that are maybe not making it into the resolutions. I think that the CAC feels that some of these things are important. On one particular situation, where we're talking about not getting out of the 100-foot vegetation, the planning board says, well, we're only 10 feet, you're only violating it by 10 feet. That's no big deal. And the CAC is saying, building a brand new house there, why can't you just get it out and conform? You have the room to do it. And then the comment back was, well, it didn't sit well with the position of the pool and the cabana. Well, so what? So maybe it has to be, I just don't want the CAC to, if we're real serious about getting things out of the 100 feet, and by George, when you've got to tear something down and build something new, and you have the room to do it, then do it. There's no excuse not to. So I just want to plant that seed because we'll be discussing this, later on, in reference to that. We're still developing a recommended plant list of things that you can plant, native plants, and avoiding invasive species. We are talking about placing different articles on our website and in the Shelter Island Reporter. Mark Capolino has been working on a pesticide article, which he had published and put in the paper. I talked about the tree removal policy. I've been in contact with Tim Pertel. We also have Sean Davey and a couple other people that are interested in joining that committee. We will start our first meeting. I will contact with Tim starting tomorrow to set up a couple of dates that we can meet during the course of the day. We are going to try to develop a policy where we just do not go prior to building on a lot and go down and take down every tree on the lot. That's not necessary. And when it's done, it's done. And then they come in with a vegetative plan that, we need to negotiate here. We need to protect what we can protect, and that's good for the property, to maintain the property and maybe build around it if it's a well-established, 150-year-old Copper Beach, not to take that plant down. That plant's been there for generations and generations, that maybe you build around it. So that goes for a pool design and everything else that we want to throw in on a piece of property. So we will tackle that in the coming weeks and get something back to the town board, hopefully by November, I would think. The Green Expo, we had good results there. We are working on fertilizer education to increase that, emphasizing, lime over fertilizer, emphasizing the proper seed, emphasizing less lawnmower cutting, and more native plants. And the other thing, we did have somebody on Zoom last night. Pam was on Zoom last night. One of the things she brought up, which got the attention of the entire board and got the attention of Amber and I were both in there, is about the vegetative plan required for the application. A lot of times the application's coming in without the vegetative plan, and it's an afterthought. We can get your you want a vegetation plan, we get your vegetation plan. It should come in with the initial application right from the start. And we also felt that it's important to have some type of education or meeting with the builders, the architects, before ground is broken. It's almost like site plan review that we tried to do with, with our businesses. Doing that on the local level where you have to take a look at the 75 to 100 feet, how to better, prepare a vegetative plan, maybe a little bit better coordination up front Because unfortunately, what we're hearing is, oh, I've already spent $50,000 on my architect, on this person, on that person. The plans are all in place. Now you're asking me to change my plans. Well, maybe we got to get involved in it earlier before all the money is spent on developing the plans in order to put our input into it to help better educate people, by the way, who come here from off island that have absolutely no clue about what is important. You know, they've never lived with a septic, they've never lived with a well, they've never lived with these wetlands, they've never lived that close to wetlands. So they really don't know, and they're at the mercy of the builder and the architect, you know, who sometimes they do a good job and sometimes maybe not such a good job in terms of informing people about town code. That's all I have, thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Amber?
I guess segueing from CAC to planning board is a good logical step here. When Stephen first came on, he asked the question, why are there two town board liaisons who go to planning board and CBA? I'd be making myself, because you said no one else does it, they're freestanding boards, whatever decisions they make, we should not be there trying to influence in person. Right? Paraphrasing that conversation?
Absolutely.
Okay. I felt differently, and Meg did too, because we both continue to attend these, is that our role is not to influence them, but to monitor them, to see how are they interpreting the code, how are they carrying out the wishes of the boards that are making appointments, or are we appointing people who have thinking in line with what we propose for the town? So that being said, watching the planning board go through the work session on 7 Chicote Avenue last week, they are coming down with a decision that I personally disagree with, or otherwise I wouldn't be bringing it up. So what I would like to do is, I'll ask Christina to forward to you the application so that it's easier for you to find all of the correspondence that came in. And I don't want to say too much today because I'd like for everyone to take a look at it, think through what you would have done, then go to the tape and look at the public hearing that they had on it, as well as the work session discussion, and see what you think you would have done, how you would have done things differently.
And then change the code?
Either we need to change the code, we definitely need to change the code,
Yeah.
but do we also want to bring it back to the town board? I was the one who voted and said we should keep it because I think the public really wanted us to keep it. Or do we need to put a moratorium on it, on these things until we fix the code? So I don't want to say too much because I don't want to push you that in the direction that I'm thinking. I will do that later. But I want you to have the information first. So that was my takeaway from the planning board. Community Housing Board met last week. They have a lot that's going on. It's a very hardworking committee. They're in the process of reviewing requests for proposals to send out for looking at what potential builders, operators would do for the 3 town parcels that we have. They're trying to include the Mamorin Road site, 2 units, Northbury Road site, 2 units, and 6 units at the Old Highway Barn, so that they have 10 units. There's county or state money that's available if we can have 10 units for economies of scale, as well as the economies of scale will help make the pricing better. So they're looking at that. So that's one thing they're working on. David Doyle spent some time on looking at crunching numbers. He has a PowerPoint presentation that hopefully is up on the website now. I'm just trying to understand how to build something and make it affordable. Like what are the moving parts? So he's doing a deep dive into that. And then the other thing that I wanted to bring up is the ADU grant, the $2 million from LIDCD? Long Island Community.
CDCLI.
Yeah, you never get those acronyms right. But anyways, they have, our goal was to get 4 sort of in the hopper by September. We, 16, we have $2 million, $125,000 per unit is the max that you can put into it. If someone can get a project done with less, then we have money to go to the next person in line. We currently have 14 through the process right now that has been looked at internally here and pushed up to the state. And they have some site visits to come, so a couple might come off, but there's still 4 in the works. So getting 16 done is really, looks like it could happen.
Yeah.
So that's encouraging news.
We
And-
might also get more money then.
Yes.
There's actually more funds available at the state.
Yes. Yeah. And then the last thing is, so far, the 0.5% tax has brought in $163,000. So that, that money has to be spent according to the community housing plan. So there'll be discussions on.
What was it on?
163.
Yeah, 163,000. So, whether it goes to help with, projects being built, potentially being built on town property down the road, or first-time homeowner loans, et cetera. So just, it's, and I actually anticipate, looking at the pre-COVID percentages and thinking it would go back to those types of levels.
We've had some high-end sales. Peter McCracken brought that up, right?
Yes, yeah. So that's all I have. This waiver of notice, I thought you noticed the budget.
Special meeting?
Yeah.
You did.
So if you noticed it, I don't think we have to sign it.
It's still a special meeting,
Oh,
as the minutes have to be.
okay, just checking. Thanks. That's all I had.
I'm just, because it was brought up last night, none of these ADUs will be in the near shore overlay. Just saying. Okay.
Right, oh, yes, yes. Yeah, because none of the ADUs, they can't have any
They have
permitting issues. They can't.
no
They don't
variances.
need, they don't have to go to the zoning board or anything.
Right. Yeah, but that's just really important because people are thinking.
BJ, when you have the open house, or the public hearing Saturday,
Yeah,
can you preface the meeting that the comprehensive plan isn't legislation, it's code?
yeah, maybe have him just generally talk about the philosophy of a comp plan.
I think that's some people's concern, that this is written in stone and this is what we
Yeah,
have to do, but it's just a plan.
some of our most vociferous or loudest feedback on the plan has been that we're not negating enough. But that's a very hard thing to do, to just sort of fantasize about the future and say, oh, we better put in there that you're not allowed to do this. That's just a difficult thing to do, and, fill in the blank to what this is. We feel that we've made the important and affirmative statement that says infrastructure, people are going to need potable water. They're actually guaranteed that right in the New York State Constitution now. You have a right to clean drinking water. So we think that in the next decade, there will be some expansion somewhere on the island of public water by Suffolk County Water, maybe one of the existing systems, I don't know, but that's out there. So in the plan, it says no residential zoning shall have increased density if and when infrastructure becomes available. Shall. You can't, we're saying Shelter Island cannot use the availability of public water to increase density in residentially zoned areas. So that's about the only, I just think that's such a strong statement that that to keep on adding, negatives to the comp plan will be difficult. It will double in size. But I just think that I just want that statement out there, that people are aware that we're aware. We've heard, the message. We have also in the plan, though, said, as people have said this, it's in the housing plan, and people have said, yes, it would be lovely to have a few second floor apartments, not third, fourth, fifth floor, second floor apartments over existing retail in the B zone. In the B zone, again, so it's not residential, it's not tall, it's not, and it's only when and if Suffolk County Health allows us to do so, which is not today. Okay, so that being said, we had a meeting with Deering Harbor, just a preliminary meeting to talk about moorings in Deering Harbor, and whose responsibility, and to start to craft an intermunicipal agreement about that. And so we have another follow-up meeting coming after that. They have passed, by the way, at the village level, they had a public hearing and passed the approval to incorporate as a nonprofit the fire department, not district, And so we're next. Yes, yeah, that's tonight that we'll have a public hearing and hopefully approve the nonprofit status of the fire department. This is prelude to the Deering Harbor Village having on their tax bills the fire district expenses like we all do, the fire district line. Now it's currently they get invoiced. It just would be much simpler, much plainer if we couldn't, so that we had this was the preliminary to that. WAC met yesterday? Is that just yesterday? Yeah, 2:00.
Yeah.
And interesting, now they talked about the fertilizer education and all of that. Is CAC in that working group?
They're trying to create the working group
With WQI.
CAC and
WQI.
options and WQI.
Right, so CAC was included in that. I did have it in my notes. I wasn't sure if, because you were talking about, yeah, it would be great to get a working group together and not duplicate this. Lisa Shaw has done a lot of work already on that topic. Jay Card spoke yesterday again about Gardner's Bay. It's, and their desire to redesign the golf course and draw more water. A big, hearty discussion on pumping well water during the summer versus pumping water that has been allowed to collect other times of the year, not in the summer period. So a big reservoir is what's being discussed as a possibility for Gardner's Bay to continue to improve. I have to note, because it was startling to me, that a small discussion ensued about, well, if this golf course club, country club doesn't continue to evolve, there's a chance it doesn't continue. Just that was thrown out there, and a little discussion ensued that it might, in fact, think about the development that could occur. Maybe the 6 million ask is not a lot. Just thought everybody should be aware of that.
I mean, I'm startled to hear that.
Right.
Because membership has increased off the South Fork big time.
That's what I thought.
And more money than ever is coming in, and the price for initiation has gone up steadily from, when I moved here, it was under 25,000. Now it's 100 plus,
Wow.
more than 100,000. And
In its current
in
condition.
its current condition, yes.
It's not a bad golf course.
No, it's a damn good golf course.
Yeah.
And of course, Mother Nature has helped, as for a public course.
Right.
You know, this year, if you went to Goat Hill and play golf, which I haven't, but I'm looking forward to hopefully next year doing a lot more of that.
Right.
It's beautiful. It's in beautiful condition. I mean, really, and I think it's credit to the people up there and Mother Nature working hand in hand to make that golf course very playable throughout, a little bit of drought that we had during the end of May, June, beginning of July, but we've made up for it rainfall and
Yeah.
it's in great shape.
Yeah.
It's a big, whenever you pump it in the winter, pump it in the summer, it is being pumped. It is, I know it's being stored, but it is being taken out of the
Well,
ground.
Peter Grants, chair of the WAC, and other members of the committee as well, do feel that in the summer, it's when we're normally our normal condition is a drought condition. This year was a little odd, but, versus the last few years, when we're normally in a normal drought condition, that to pump at that time of year, that's when you're going to increase your risk of upcoating and saltwater intrusion, even in, Hay Beach, which, everybody thinks of it as having a fat aquifer over there, a fat lens. But even there's an edge. So Menantic Creek creek keepers are really on it. I'll tell you what, they're getting some great data there. And it's great data that's showing a bad picture. Low levels of dissolved oxygen at low tides, especially when you'd expect it at low tides.
Yeah.
Joe chimed in, Joe Fenora, that it's the increased nutrient loads and the runoff, runoff that contributes to turbidity, the opacity of the water, that those contribute to the low oxygen levels. Then you almost go into this little death spiral, because then the decaying contributes to more low levels of oxygen.
Sure.
Hence maybe the condition that it's in now. So again, the dredging, this data that they're collecting now, they are hoping, I think, to bring to us, WQI, to fund a dredging not for navigation, dredging for health of the creek. So there's that. Now, there's a person interested in maybe trying to start the same kind of idea for Chase Creek. We'll see if that gets further along the citizen science thing. And last night, we had a meeting, comp plan with the Shelter Island Association. Very interesting to me. We had a visitor that he doesn't belong to an HOA, but he was interested in just observing the meeting, not contributing. And he was told he had to leave. It was a private meeting from a group that has been beating me up anyway over transparency. I found it to be very ironic. So he was asked to leave, and he did. And I later checked with Stephen, and in a private meeting in a public space, just so you know, you can in fact ask the public to leave. So just that we all know that's an okay.
That person, were they from an area that's already represented, or are they?
No.
No, he's from the center, and he's just an interested citizen.
Well,
But I think there are other people in the room that aren't in an HOA either, and they were allowed to stay. So it was interesting to me, the whole, what went on. It was very civil, very nice, but, just as a point of interest.
It would always be the strength of this Shelter Island Association if there were 5 or 6 at-large people from the center of town.
Wouldn't it?
It would be, because then it would be a true Shelter Island Association, it really would.
Yeah.
We pushed for that, and I was vice president of the organization for a lot of years.
Yeah.
And worked with Tim Hope, we tried that, but we never followed through.
I think you could find people who would dedicate the time,
Absolutely, absolutely. One comment on the creeks are important, though, that, and it just goes to show you that neglect, over decades of neglect, and all our water bodies, particularly creeks, there's a price to be paid. Maintenance is maintenance. We always say, I'm talking about going back to the recreation parks, and everything involves maintenance. The trails, we buy properties, put nice trail, maintenance. I was worked in the bird sanctuary this morning, it's maintenance. There's maintenance that needs to go on all the time. It's nice to have all these things, you gotta maintain them. And we have been overall negligent and properly doing maintenance, particularly in places like creeks and, these.
Well, we
You end
know,
up paying a heavy price down the road until you get to a condition like this, and at the creek, which is in bad shape, it's.
well, we know the WMAC has an excellent volunteer, Al, who is our dredging king. And envoy. And I believe that if we asked nicely, if Al would expand his remit and the WMAC to include this kind of maintenance dredging for flow, that maybe within a year or two, we could get that program going. And if we could prove that it's habitat restorative, then I think that some WQI funds would be able to be used. So maybe we'll be able to do that at the next WMAC meeting, is ask if that would be an interest of the committee. That's it.
Stephen?
Nothing other than the fact that Amber, you.
Okay, anybody in the audience? Anybody in the Zoom audience?
I have a question.
Yep.
I'm Julia Brennan from the Shelter Island Gazette. So I did attend the WAC meeting yesterday. And one of the things that was a big takeaway for me is that the Water Advisory Committee seemed to be negotiating with Gardner's Bay Country Club on a conditional approval of allowing either additional pumping or somehow modifying the permit request that they now have before the DEC. What I would ask this board, because I'm not clear on what the chain of command is it the WAC's role to negotiate on behalf of the town with Gardner's Bay about its permit, or is that something that really is up to the town board to do? It really wasn't clear yesterday, and there was a lot of very detailed, well, if you build this kind of pond, then we'll be able to do this, and then we'll be able to do that. And I know some of it's just thinking out loud, but it also did take the sort of manner of a negotiation. I was wondering what your position was.
I would think it's the WAC's role to get the information, and then maybe to make a recommendation to the town board. Certainly, they're not negotiating.
You haven't asked them to make your recommendation on this permit application.
No, it's an eye opener for me. I see it like Jerry does, or more so. No, the answer would be an emphatic no, that they should not be negotiating. I have no knowledge of this. I'm a town board member. I'm an elected official. That can't happen. That has to come back. I don't mind the brainstorming and the thinking out loud and developing of ideas and generating ideas. Those ideas have to come back here. Those have to be carefully weighed and thought through by the town board before they go further. I would be upset by that. Thank you for bringing it back to our.
It's my word, it felt like a negotiation rather than brainstorming. And so, again, that's just my characterization of it, and I just wondered if there had been any directive from the town board, hey, we want you to take a look at this.
On discussion.
I have some questions about the budget, especially in the front. I'd say no.
If you say no, then you make it hurt.
Benjamin Diet, citizen of Shelter Island. I just wanted to get some clarification on a couple things I thought I heard. So in the budget presentation, you were talking about hiring a hydrologist?
Part-time.
But having money available for the WAC if they find in their proceedings that they need to have some of their studies.
And is there a number attached to that?
$40,000.
Right. Also, on the discussion of the town attorney, there was a 3% increase suggested. Did I hear that right?
3% across the whole town.
Right.
All town. Okay. And except for the engineer, I thought I heard 9%.
And that's what he proposed.
Oh,
I was saying what everybody proposed and then what I proposed.
okay, so yes, for 9 years, you're suggesting 3. Those are my questions.
Stella?
Thanks, Jerry. And thank you, Amber, for bringing up 7 Chequet. Just one quick point, 2 quick points of clarification. There were actually 3 hearings. So, when the board actually reviews everything, if you can do that, and then please pay some extra attention to the letter that the nearby neighbors and the Heights wrote, which represents over 50 residents' opinions about this particular situation. Thank you.
Thanks, Stella. Anybody else?
A couple of questions, Jerry, on the budget. The first is I've asked if we could get a copy of your overview letter.
Yes, I'll send that out. Yep.
Great. And second, I realize that obviously this is just a beginning and numbers will change, but can you give us any kind of a total of what the budget would be if it were to go through exactly as you?
11.9.
11.8.
I'm sorry,
11.8%.
11.8%. Thank you.
Sandra?
And just before you get Sandra, that's why I did bring up at one time when I was here, we went into a cycle at 18%. And we did get it down to 4 point something. So I just, as a caution, those numbers are a little scary in the beginning when you hear them. But that's what I'm here for.
To scare people.
No, I know.
To take a machete. Take a machete.
You start looking at erases, erases are $1.98, but you need bigger items to be able to make some cuts.
Sandra?
Yeah, I too was at the WAC meeting yesterday, and I walked away with exactly the same impression that Julia had. I was dumbfounded, actually. At what I felt like I was watching a negotiation. And I was still talking about it this morning. So I would encourage those of you who weren't there to maybe watch the tape.
Right. Well, I mean, we did give the application to the WAC for them to look at and give their recommendations to us.
Well, there was no application. There was a letter from Governor's Bay.
Right.
Seeking, yes. And then the town board did delegate it to the WAC to vet it.
To vet it, but not to negotiate
Correct.
terms for approval. So
No,
that's Peter's enthusiasm and, you know,
but I think also Peter is saying that it's his sense of his board, that they're not going to recommend anything that would require more well-drawn pumping in the drought season. That being said, that that it's an advisory board. So.
I mean, I watched the meeting from,
Yeah.
you know, on Zoom. And, I didn't take it as a negotiation. I thought they were just touching all bases, covering everything. That's what I said. Anybody else? Okay, I'm gonna make a motion. We close the work session and go into an executive session to continue discussion contract negotiations. Second?
second.